The humiliation. The Galactic Assembly Hall on Nexus 7 stretched nearly 2 kilometers across, a monument to alien engineering and political power. Crystalline walls refracted light from distant stars, creating patterns that shifted with the movements of hundreds of delegates. This was the heart of galactic civilization, where decisions affecting trillions of lives were made with the stroke of a manipulator, tentacle, or claw. Ambassador David Marshall stood at the speaking platform, alone. He was a tall man with silver hair and a face marked by years of diplomatic service. His simple gray suit looked plain compared to the elaborate garments, biological displays, and technological augmentations worn by the alien delegates surrounding him. He carried no weapons, no impressive devices. He had only a data tablet and 50 years of hope that today might finally be different. It would not be different. Honored members of the Galactic Assembly, David began, his voice amplified through the translation matrix that filled the chamber. The United Terran Coalition presents its formal petition for full membership status. For 50 years, humanity has served as a provisional member of this august body. We have fulfilled every requirement set before us. We have exceeded every benchmark established for advancement. He activated his tablet, projecting holographic data into the center of the chamber. Charts and figures materialized in the air, representing 5 decades of human achievement. Medical breakthroughs that saved billions across 30 species. Agricultural innovations that ended famine on 17 worlds. Engineering solutions that prevented catastrophic failures on countless stations and colonies. Peacekeeping forces deployed to 43 conflict zones. Humanitarian aid delivered without hesitation or conditions. We have honored every treaty, David continued. We have fulfilled every obligation. We have contributed to the prosperity and security of the galactic community in ways that speak for themselves. Today, we ask only for what we have earned through dedication and sacrifice. We request recognition as full and equal members of this assembly. Silence filled the vast chamber. Then it began. A clicking sound from the Krethak delegation. A whistling noise from the Voxian section. A deep thrumming from the Borlax representatives. The universal sound of laughter, expressed in 100 different alien ways. The sound David Marshall had learned to dread over 5 decades of service. Supreme Arbiter Quelix of the Zentari Collective rose from his elevated throne. His species resembled mantises made of liquid metal, beautiful and cold. The Zentari had ruled their corner of the galaxy for 12 million years. They viewed younger species the way humans might view bacteria under a microscope. The Assembly acknowledges Earth's petition, Quelix announced, his synthetic voice perfectly modulated. And the Assembly finds it remarkable that such expectations persist after so many rejections. More laughter rippled through the chamber. David stood motionless, his expression neutral. He had learned long ago that showing pain only encouraged them. 50 years, Quelix continued, manipulating holographic controls that brought up images of Earth. Cities, oceans, forests, people going about their lives. The longest provisional period in Assembly history. Does the human representative wonder why this is so? Does he truly not understand why Earth remains outside our ranks? David said nothing. There was no point in responding. This was theater, not dialogue. Quelix expanded the holographic display. Images of human activities filled the air above the assembly. Observe, honored delegates, the species that seeks equality among us. They consume organic matter from other living creatures for sustenance. They require 8 hours of unconsciousness daily to function properly. They wage war upon their own kind over trivial differences in appearance and belief. The images changed, showing selected moments from human history. Conflicts, disasters, struggles. All carefully chosen, stripped of context, presented as evidence of fundamental inadequacy. They worship invisible entities, Quelix declared. They create art that serves no practical purpose. They waste resources on entertainment and games. They form emotional attachments to animals. They cry when sad and laugh when happy, allowing primitive feelings to override logic and reason. Counselor Braxis of the Meridian Empire stood next. The Meridians were massive beings encased in thick armor plating, their species having conquered 42 worlds before joining the assembly. "I have worked with humans," Braxis announced, his voice like grinding stone. "They are adequate for basic labor. They can follow simple instructions when properly supervised. But they lack the discipline for true civilization. They question authority. They demand explanations for orders. They believe their individual opinions matter." Laughter again, louder this time. The delegates were enjoying themselves. The hive mind of Sector 9 spoke next, its words coming from 50 bodies simultaneously, creating an eerie chorus. "We have analyzed human cognitive architecture. Their brains are inefficient. They process information slowly. They experience memory degradation. They make critical decisions based on emotional responses rather than logical analysis. They are, to state it plainly, an evolutionary experiment that failed to reach its potential." David Marshall remained at the platform, his hands steady at his sides. His face showed nothing. Inside, something ancient and cold was settling into place. Something that felt like a door closing after 50 years of being held open. Furthermore, Quelix continued, "The Assembly has concerns about human reliability. They have demonstrated technological capabilities beyond what should be possible for a species of their age and development. This suggests either extraordinary luck or deliberate concealment of their true nature. Neither possibility inspires confidence." A junior delegate from the Palaxian Confederation spoke up. "Why do they help so freely? No species gives without expecting return. Their generosity is suspicious. It suggests hidden agendas or, worse, genuine naivety. Both are dangerous." "Earth's petition is denied," Quelix announced formally. "Furthermore, the Assembly votes to implement enhanced oversight protocols. Humanity will submit to comprehensive inspections of their civilization. They will provide full access to their technology, their communication networks, their governmental systems, and their military capabilities. They will accept Assembly advisors on Earth itself to guide their development toward proper standards. Refusal to comply will result in immediate expulsion from the galactic community and economic sanctions." The vote proceeded. Species that had been saved by human doctors voted against Earth. Species that had been fed by human agriculture voted against Earth. Species that had been protected by human peacekeepers voted against Earth. Species that had benefited from human engineering voted against Earth. Everyone wanted to be on the winning side. Everyone wanted to maintain favor with the powerful. The final tally appeared on the main display. 473 votes against Earth's petition. 12 votes in favor, mostly from small, powerless species. 7 abstentions. David Marshall waited until the chamber fell completely silent. Then he spoke just 6 words. "Earth thanks the Assembly for this clarity." He deactivated his tablet, tucked it under his arm, and turned toward the exit. His steps were measured and unhurried. His posture remained straight. He did not look back at the delegates who were already moving on to other business, already forgetting about the primitive species that had dared to ask for respect. The massive doors closed behind him with a soft sound that felt like finality. In the corridor outside, his deputy Sarah Chen fell into step beside him. She was young, barely 40, still idealistic enough to be shaking with rage at what had just happened. "Ambassador, we need to file a formal protest," Sarah said, her voice tight with controlled fury. "We need to demand a recount. We need to expose the voting irregularities. We need to do none of those things," David interrupted gently. "We have been filing protests for 50 years, Sarah. We have been demanding fairness for 5 decades. Do you know what that has achieved?" Sarah fell silent. "It has achieved nothing," David answered his own question. "Because they were never going to accept us. Not today. Not in 100 years. Not ever. They do not want partners. They want servants who are grateful for the privilege of serving. They want subordinates who accept their place without complaint. They reached the docking bay where human vessels waited. The ships were sleek and functional, lacking the ornate designs favored by other species. David paused at the entrance to his transport. I have spent my entire career believing that if we just tried harder, if we just gave more, if we just proved ourselves enough times, they would eventually see us as equals, he said quietly. I was wrong. Generosity without boundaries is not kindness. It is an invitation to be exploited. Patience without limits is not wisdom. It is permission to be abused. He boarded the shuttle. As it lifted off and accelerated away from Nexus 7, David opened a secure communication channel. The encryption was military-grade, developed in secret, unknown to any species beyond Earth's borders. This is Ambassador Marshall, he said. Authorization code Phoenix 77 Alpha. A voice responded immediately. Authorization confirmed. Awaiting instructions, Ambassador. David looked out the viewport at the vast station shrinking behind them. Nexus 7, the pinnacle of galactic civilization. The place where hundreds of species gathered to make decisions that shaped the future. The place that had just made the worst decision in its long history. Activate Protocol Phoenix, David said. All contingencies. All preparations. Full implementation. Effective immediately. Ambassador, please confirm. Full activation will terminate all existing agreements with Council species. It will end 50 years of cooperative programs. It will. I understand exactly what it means, David interrupted. The Assembly has made their position clear. For 50 years, we asked for respect. We asked for recognition. We asked for equality. They answered with mockery. Now we will answer with action. Execute the protocol. Understood, Ambassador. Initiating Protocol Phoenix. Phase 1 will complete in 72 hours. Phase 2 will begin immediately thereafter. All human personnel are being recalled. All programs are being terminated. All shared technologies are being recalled or deactivated. Good, David said. And Sarah? Yes, Ambassador. Make sure the message is clear. We are not angry. We are not seeking revenge. We are simply done asking for permission to be treated as equals. The communication ended. David leaned back in his seat and closed his eyes. For the first time in 50 years, the weight on his shoulders felt lighter. The burden of hope, of trying to please people who would never be pleased, of sacrificing dignity for acceptance that would never come, it was gone. The galaxy had laughed at humanity. It had mocked their emotions, their culture, their generosity. It had taken everything humans offered and demanded more while giving nothing but contempt in return. Now humanity would show them what they had been laughing at. Now the galaxy would learn what happens when Earth stops asking for respect and simply takes what was always theirs by right. 72 hours. That was all the time the Assembly had before everything changed. David Marshall smiled. It was not a pleasant expression. The collapse. 72 hours after the Assembly session, Supreme Arbiter Quelix arrived at the Terran diplomatic mission on Nexus 7. He carried with him a data core containing the enhanced oversight protocols that Earth would be required to implement. The building was a modest structure compared to the crystalline towers and bioorganic constructs surrounding it, but it had always been alive with activity. Human diplomats conducting meetings, staff members coordinating relief efforts, the smell of Earth food drifting from the commissary, the sound of human laughter and conversation. Now it was silent. Quelix approached the entrance. The doors were unlocked. Inside, he found empty corridors stretching into darkness. Empty offices with furniture remaining but all personal items removed. Empty conference rooms where negotiations had taken place for 5 decades. The humans had left like shadows, taking everything that mattered and leaving only hollow spaces behind. On the main reception desk, Quelix found a single data chip. He inserted it into his neural interface. The message was brief and formal. To the Galactic Assembly, the United Terran Coalition hereby withdraws from all treaties, agreements, pacts, arrangements, and understandings with Assembly member species. This includes, but is not limited to, 1,214 trade agreements, 678 scientific cooperation protocols, 293 mutual defense arrangements, 147 cultural exchange programs, and 3,812 miscellaneous contracts and commitments. Total withdrawals, 6,144. Effective immediately. Earth thanks the Assembly for 50 years of educational experience. No further communication will be accepted. Quelix read it 3 times. Then he contacted the Assembly Emergency Council. Within 2 hours, every major government in the galaxy knew. Humanity was leaving. All at once. Without negotiation. Without warning. Without explanation beyond a simple message. On the agricultural world of Meridian 5, farmers discovered their crops dying overnight. For 35 years, human xenobotanists had provided a specialized fungal treatment that allowed plants to thrive in the planet's harsh soil. They had shared it freely, asking nothing in return. The Meridian Empire had been so grateful they had restructured their entire agricultural economy around it. Now the fungus was gone. Not dead, simply absent. Dissolved by a genetic timer that humanity had apparently built into its DNA from the beginning. A safety feature, they had called it. A way to prevent uncontrolled spread. The Meridians had never questioned it. Why would anyone question a gift? Emergency reports flooded the Imperial Command Network. Meridian 5 could produce only 30% of its normal yield without the human fungus. The other agricultural colonies reported similar catastrophic failures. Food shortages would begin within 6 weeks. Famine would follow within 3 months. Counselor Braxis, who had mocked humans before the Assembly, demanded answers from his science division. "Can we recreate the fungus?" he asked. "Negative, Counselor," his chief scientist replied. "We never fully analyzed it. There was no reason to. The humans maintained it for us. They sent new cultures every season. We simply distributed them. Then contact Earth immediately. Demand they restore it. We have attempted contact, Counselor. Earth is not responding to any communications from the Meridian Empire. All channels are blocked." Braxis slammed his armored fist against the wall, cracking the reinforced stone. "They cannot do this. We will take what we need by force if necessary." His advisors exchanged nervous glances. None of them wanted to speak the truth that was becoming increasingly obvious. The Meridian Empire had never actually assessed human military capabilities. They had assumed humans were weak because humans acted peacefully. Now they were beginning to wonder if that assumption had been a fatal mistake. Across the galaxy, the medical community faced a different crisis. On Hospital Station Sanctuary 12, Dr. Valera discovered that her entire supply of human-developed medicines had expired simultaneously. The cure for crystalline wasting syndrome, which had killed millions of Zentari before humans solved it, simply stopped working. The genetic therapy for neural cascade disorder, which saved thousands of Palaxian children annually, became inert. 43 different treatments for 43 different species, all provided freely by Earth, all suddenly useless. Dr. Valera attempted to contact the Terran Medical Institute directly. The response was automated and cold. "Thank you for your inquiry. Earth's medical assistance programs have been terminated in accordance with Protocol Phoenix. All licenses for human-developed treatments have been revoked. All ongoing research collaborations are cancelled. We recommend you develop alternative solutions. Earth wishes you success in your future endeavors." Valera stared at the message in horror. In her wards, patients were already deteriorating. Children who had been improving were declining. Adults who had been stable were experiencing symptom recurrence. She had never thanked the humans for their help. None of them had. They had simply expected it to continue forever. The transportation network collapsed next. The quantum transit system that connected 15 sectors of space went dark without warning. This network allowed instant travel across distances that would otherwise require years to cross. Billions of beings depended on it for commerce, communication, and connection to distant family members. The system had been designed by human engineers over a period of 20 years. They had offered it to the galaxy as a gift to promote unity and cooperation. Maintenance had always been performed exclusively by human technicians. The assembly had accepted this arrangement without question because it was convenient. Now the network was offline. The technology involved principles that other species had never fully understood. Human engineers had used mathematical frameworks that did not match existing theoretical models. The assembly had accepted their help without questioning their methods or learning their techniques. Transit Authority Director Xanthor sent an emergency message to every government. The quantum transit system cannot be restored without human assistance. Our engineers do not understand the underlying principles. Our best estimate for developing alternative systems, 15 to 20 years. Current economic impact, catastrophic. On Nexus 7, the assembly's translation matrix began to malfunction. These devices, worn by every delegate, allowed instant communication across language barriers. They had been developed through joint scientific effort, but the core programming that actually made them function was human code. Elegant, efficient, and apparently designed with an expiration protocol. Diplomats suddenly found themselves unable to understand each other. Trade negotiations collapsed when neither party could comprehend the terms. A minor territorial dispute between two small species escalated into violence when their translators failed during critical talks. Supreme Arbiter Quelix called an emergency assembly session. It took 6 hours just to establish basic communication using old, primitive translation software. Half the delegates could not participate because they had no way to understand the proceedings. How is this possible? Quelix demanded, his synthetic voice distorted by the inferior translation program. How did humanity embed themselves so deeply into our civilization without anyone noticing? How did we become so dependent on them? The answer came from Ambassador Telras of the Gentle Ones, a small peaceful species that had always maintained friendly relations with humans. You did not notice because you were not paying attention, Telras said quietly. For 50 years, humans solved problems. They asked nothing in return. They took no credit. They wanted only to help. You were so busy looking down on them that you never looked at what they were actually doing. They built nothing of significance, Quelix protested. They had no great projects. They had no impressive achievements that caught our attention. They built everything, Telras replied. They built the foundation underneath your feet. They built the systems you depend on. They built the infrastructure that keeps your civilizations functioning. You never noticed because it all worked so well. You never questioned because they made it easy for you. And now they have removed themselves, and you are discovering what it means to stand without support. An intelligence report arrived that made everything worse. A deep space monitoring station had detected massive energy signatures coming from the Sol system. Construction on a scale that dwarfed anything the assembly had ever attempted. Thousands of structures being built around Earth's star, capturing its energy with efficiency that should not be possible. The analyst who compiled the report included a chilling note: based on visible progress and estimated construction rates, this project must have begun approximately 70 years ago. 20 years before humanity made first contact with the assembly. They had this capability when they approached us. They came to us as supplicants while building something that makes our greatest achievements look like children's toys. Quelix felt something he had never experienced in his long existence. Fear. Not fear of violence or war, but fear of understanding. Humanity had never needed the assembly. They had never needed recognition or approval or elevated status. They had approached the galaxy as equals, perhaps as superiors, and chosen to act like students. They had given freely because giving cost them nothing. They had been patient because they could afford infinite patience. And the assembly had mistaken their kindness for weakness. Their generosity for naivety. Their patience for submission. A priority transmission came through from the Meridian Empire. The Terran defense grid has activated. All attempts to approach Earth's system are being turned back. No shots fired. Our ships simply lose power when they cross the boundary. Everything reactivates when they retreat. It is as if they are being politely but firmly told to leave. We do not understand the technology involved. More reports flooded in. Human personnel had evacuated from every world in the galaxy. Thousands of teachers, doctors, engineers, scientists, aid workers, diplomats. All gone within 72 hours, as if they had been planning this withdrawal for years. Because they had been. Protocol Phoenix had existed from the beginning, a contingency plan activated only if humanity was pushed beyond its limit. Supreme Arbiter Quelix stood in the empty assembly chamber, looking at the seats where 473 delegates had voted to deny Earth's petition. He accessed the historical database and requested a full accounting of human contributions to galactic civilization over the past 50 years. The document that appeared was massive. Thousands of pages detailing innovations, solutions, contributions, and gifts that humanity had provided. Medical breakthroughs that saved billions of lives annually. Agricultural techniques that fed trillions. Engineering solutions that prevented disasters. Scientific discoveries that advanced understanding across dozens of fields. Art and music and literature that had enriched cultures galaxy-wide. Educational programs that trained the next generation of scientists and thinkers. And beneath it all, one terrifying notation: this document represents only openly acknowledged human contributions. Intelligence estimates suggest their actual capabilities exceed demonstrated abilities by a factor of 10 to 100. We have no reliable data on human technological ceiling, military strength, or strategic reserves. Quelix's liquid metal form rippled with something that might have been despair. "What have we done?" he whispered to the empty chamber. A final message arrived from Earth. Not addressed to him specifically, but broadcast across all communication channels so that every being in the galaxy would receive it. Ambassador David Marshall appeared on the transmission. He looked tired but calm. To the Galactic Assembly and all member species, 50 years ago, humanity approached you with open hands. We offered partnership, friendship, and cooperation. We shared our knowledge freely. We asked for nothing except to be treated with basic respect. You answered with mockery. You took everything we gave and demanded more while giving nothing but contempt in return. We made a mistake. We believed that generosity would be met with gratitude. We believed that patience would be rewarded with respect. We believed that proving our worth would lead to acceptance. We were wrong about you. But we were not wrong about ourselves. We do not require anything from the galactic community. We never did. Our door remains open, but only to those who approach as equals and friends. For those who wish to continue treating others as inferiors, we wish you success in solving the problems you created by driving away those who helped you. Earth will be building our own future now. You are welcome to build yours. The transmission ended. Supreme Arbiter Quelix stood alone in the darkness, surrounded by empty seats and the ruins of an institution that had lasted for millions of years. The assembly had survived wars, plagues, and disasters that would have destroyed lesser organizations. But it could not survive the discovery that it had been wrong about a species it considered primitive. It could not survive the revelation that the weakest member had actually been the strongest. It could not survive the understanding that everything they depended on had been a gift that could be taken away. And now it was gone. The galaxy would learn to function without human help. Eventually. But it would take decades, perhaps centuries. And every day of that struggle would be a reminder of what they had lost through arrogance and pride. 50 years of human generosity, erased in 72 hours. The assembly had laughed at Earth. Now Earth was leaving them to face the consequences of that laughter alone.